Hello, my name is Josephine LoRe, and I am here to share a poem with you. It is not a new poem. It was written back in 2024, and it was originally published by Darcy Friesen in Word City Lit, an online journal. I would like to propose this poem as an antidote for the tragedies in this world. So I am submitting it to When Words Defeat Bullets, as requested by Mansour. And I would like to start, however, with an acknowledgement that where I live and create these lands here that we now call Calgary or Mohkinstsis in one language, these are the ancestral traditional homes of a number of different Indigenous groups that have lived and traversed this area for millennia, not just decades or centuries, but millennia. And these peoples nowadays, they call themselves the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Nakota, the Kainai, the Siksika, and there may be other names which I have forgotten or neglected, and I apologize for that. But I would like to thank these peoples for having brought culture, language, and poetry to this land. So the poem is called A Single Leaf. This poem is a leaf falling from a tree. This poem is the stillness after the last echo sounds, the pause between an exhalation and the next inhale. This poem is gravel embedded into me, an offering of thanks for a crust of week-old bread. This poem is the rumble of armored trucks, a deluge of debris. This poem is every story, every footfall, walking further from belonging, step by step toward the safety beyond borders. This poem is a pacifier in the dead grasses by the roadside, family photos curling in the flame. This poem is fingers playing a white piano for the very last time, a baker in a land of foreign tongue, braiding dough. This poem is centuries of steady leaving, flaxen-haired children playing in the grasses of the Canadian West, hearing tales of their babushka. This poem is the pattern finally painted on a Pascal egg, a ribbon woven, a dance steeped in folklore. This poem is empty words and hollow lies. This poem is arrogance, the hubris of ambition, a heart of anthracite. This poem is despotic, the color of blue sky, golden sun, a tattered flag at dusk. This poem is the world, watching, too afraid to condemn, the pause between an inhalation and the last exhale. This poem is a silence that thunders after the last echo. This poem, a single leaf falling from a tree. This poem is a doll trampled, a fountain withered, markings for growth penciled on a door jamb of a house in which the roof has fallen in. This poem is a whimper in the night. This poem is Syria, Passchendaele, Dakar, Tehran. This poem is Dresden, Tripoli, Ukraine. This poem is polished leather marching in the mud to the counterpoint of hatred. This poem is a drone, the barrel of a gun. This poem is a daffodil sprung from ground, no one there to marvel. This poem is a prayer unanswered in the dark, a graveyard, headstones tumbled in the tumult. This poem is hope navigating in a blind sky. This poem is fear, the stench of death, a seed swallowed in the belly of the plenty. This poem is numb. This poem is sirens, air raids, blackouts, a mother shushing a wailing child, eyes dimmed by the hunger and the horror. This poem is robin muted, barn owl stunned into silence. This poem is humanitarian, drop by single drop, the cold press of metal. This poem is making its way over rubble, the body yearning for comforts, for respite, for home. This poem is the blue glow of late night news, the drone, the drone. This poem is Gallipoli, the Battle of Batoche, Beirut, Leningrad, Michilimackinac, Kiev. This poem is a weightless child born on weary shoulders, the elderly and firm left behind. This poem is the same mistake repeated. Power, greed, and lust, all the venial sins and all the mortal sins combined, and circles, circles upon circles of inner hell. This poem is the atrocities of man, barriers, fences, roadblocks, undiluted hate. This poem is a cry tearing the veil of night. This poem is a leaf, a single leaf falling from a single tree. This poem is a stream running red, bodies rotting into ground. This poem is letters undelivered, lovers lost to one another and forever, babies not conceived and never born. This poem is fields untilled, unsown, song unsung, country churches, windows smashed and broken. This poem is chickens left to rummage, cows unmilked, sheep unshorn, a horse dying of starvation on cold ground. This poem is the moon hung low in desperation, the deportation of Acadians at the point of bayonet. Tibet, Jerusalem, Berlin, the Wailing Wall, walls of wailing, walls of brick. The floating exodus of Vietnam. This poem is Mogadishu, Rwanda, the lost boys of Sudan. This poem is drownings in the harbor, the Noche Triste, the Fourth Reich. This poem is the West Bank and the Nile, the War of 1812, the War of Secession, the War against repression, the War against concession. This poem is a reed basket, Daniel and the lion, Samson shorn. This poem is David without a slingshot or a stone. This poem is a leaf, a single leaf, falling from a tree, a single tree floating on a river turning red. Thank you very much for listening. This is Josephine LoRe. Good evening. My name is Josephine LoRe, and I am a poet who lives in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, on lands that have been traditionally inhabited and traversed for millennia by the Indigenous peoples of the area, who nowadays call themselves the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Nakota, the Kainai, the Siksika. There may be other names as well, which I have overlooked or forgotten, and I apologize for that, but I would like to thank the Indigenous peoples for initially having brought culture, language, and poetry to this land. So I'm answering a call to submit poetry to an initiative called Where Words Defeat Bullets, and I was invited by Mansour to submit something. I have actually two poems, one that was written a number of years ago and one that is fresh, brand new. So let's start with a fresh one. Where Words Defeat Bullets. What will you forge to replace the bullets in your gun? Can you fill them instead with a tapestry of generosity, a banquet of compassion and kindness? Burgeoning seeds for an abundant future, sustenance for the soul of the hungry, equality for all colors, all faiths, all genres, all genders. Drop books and pencils onto schoolhouse, not bombs. Offer shelter to the scared, sanctuary to the sacred, a haven for the homeless, an inviolate home for our dreams. Paper boats, shadow boxes, origami birds. When will you take those metal bullets out of your guns and fill them instead with kindness and love? Thank you very much. I'll be making a separate recording for the second poem. Bye-bye.